Good morning. Good morning. I'm just going to ask Elaine, I think she will begin playing our first hymn, which is our call to worship. It's one step along, oh, yes, one more step. Good morning. I think we've had all kinds of weather this morning, right? Snow, fog, mist, now sunshine, the promise of a good day. Dawn and I are pleased to be here this morning to do a little part in the leadership of this morning, along with the musicians and the greeters and the audio-visual people and the coffee hosts. We're a great team all working together, each of us as we gather together in community to share sacred time and space. At Winfield United, we welcome wherever you are on your faith journey, whatever your age, whether senior and not quite grown up, or teenager and growing up too fast, or toddler exploring his or her new world. Whomever you love and however you identify yourselves, welcoming is not in spite of our diversity. We welcome because we are diverse and would be uncomfortable if it were not so. I know that Dawn will be sharing some thoughts this morning on solitude and silence. And as we acknowledge that we are on the unceded and traditional land of the Syilx and Okanagan people, I wonder if we might move into silence, and if we were very, very quiet, might we be able to hear the ancient voices coming up from this earth, from the millennia of the First Nations people. They told stories, cared for and harvested the land, fished in the water, and danced and celebrated in the sun and in the rain. Just like we are doing today, they shared in community their sacred stories and rituals. We gather in community with a resonance and connection through time and space. This is a gift of sacred spirit, uniting us with what has gone before and reassuring us that what lies ahead and what we do here will matter for the generations ahead of us, knowing that we are all beloved to the Creator, welcomed, needed, impactful, and grateful. Good morning. I see one visitor here this morning, and Anna, I have your permission to introduce you. Anna is visiting here for the first time and is originally from Venezuela and been in Canada for several years now and is engaged to a young man from this area. And we are very happy to have you here today, Anna. And I don't see any other guests this morning. So I'm wondering if there are any announcements to be made. And if so, if you'll come to the front and make that announcement.
Following Bev, I have to lower this by a foot. Oh, oh no, it's not quite that bad. Good morning, everybody. I had a nice long conversation with Sandy a couple of days ago, and she wanted me to remind the congregation that the 24th of this month is our annual general meeting, to circle your calendar and be prepared to come and spend some time on the business of the church. And I don't see Tom Cockrell, or I don't see Don Lemp here, but I do see a lot of people who helped with the pancake breakfast a few Sundays ago, and I would like to say thank you on behalf of the church council for Don and Tom for spearheading that, and for everyone that flipped and poured coffee and did what they did to make it a very, 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 very nice breakfast after church that Sunday. And from a personal note, for those of you that don't get Skim or haven't heard, my husband and I have requested character reference letters from whoever in the congregation that would like to support us as we move forward in gaining partial guardianship of Rocky. We are having to go the legal route. We've had no response from the ministry for the 4 months. We've been asking questions and they just don't think that we exist anymore. So this is the route we're going to have to, and for those that of you have already sent in letters, our love and gratitude for always for you. So this is for our little toddler, as Bev was talking about. Yeah, she's exploring the world for sure at 30 miles an hour. So thank you. Oh, well, she's not really. She's still battling. She's still trying to wait for an appointment with the neurosurgeon. She did say, I'm going to try and get out and do something, like my girlfriend is coming to get me sometime this coming week to have her hair cut. She said that's the one thing that I really want. But she's there until they can find out what kind of surgical impact will help her. So.
Fran, do you have a draft letter that we can use to base our...
It's on Skim, and Sharon put it beautifully. If you just click on the box that, it goes into a PDF, and all the information is there. You don't need to, you write whatever you want, but it's pretty easy to get the link and give the information. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Fran. Any other announcements? I'll just add a couple here that I have on the notes from Sharon. One, that the folk choir practices again on March 7th at 2:30, and everyone is invited to come and participate who would like to be part of that folk choir. It was wonderful having you here this morning to start the service. Thank you to all of you with the full choir. And also that there's going to be a sing-along at the Lodge and Manor on the 14th of March. And a second announcement is, again, about the Broadview subscriptions, that the United Church magazine is available for the subscription price of $30 for 8 issues, plus 2 bonus issues. And Sharon, who is that people should be in touch with? If you? Yeah, okay, with Sharon, and she will make that subscription arrive in your mailbox. Thank you. Are there any birthdays or celebrations happening this week? I Who is that?
And somebody who hears better.
Those
repeat
are-
that.
The Edward Sawatzkys are a little hard of hearing.
Okay.
It's on.
Many of you know my mother, and she's coming on, Eva, and she's coming on Tuesday, and will be here for a week, and we'll probably be at church on Sunday. And I was just, you didn't hear it from me, but she will be turning 90 later in March. So she doesn't look a day over 70, so.
So this morning, as we light this candle, as we gather in community this morning, we light it in reminder of the way forward for each of us in our spiritual journeys. And that we have found wisdom and love in this community, which has supported us in that journey. It is a call for each of us to keep an open mind and an open heart to receive what we need for the journey of this day and this week.
Please join me in an opening prayer. Holy One, as we gather together this morning, let us truly be with each other. Let us be aware of the source of all life, and let us remember that all life is connected, worthy of respect and dignity. Let us give thanks for the power of heart to sense the holy in the midst of the simple. Let us be mindful of our wounded world and the pain and suffering endured by countless people in the war zones of Palestine, Ukraine, Sudan, and many other locations. As we pray for a path to peace, let us fill our hearts with compassion towards ourselves and to all living things. Let us pray that we live in a way that will not deprive others, including future generations, of air, water, shelter, or the chance to live. Let us dream together and not lose hope. Amen. Well, we don't have any small children here this morning, but I don't think any of you are too old to hear about Gerald the giraffe. So Bev is going to come forward and talk about Gerald the giraffe.
And you're going to ask for God moments later.
Pardon me?
And you're going to do the God moments later, right?
Yes, God moments will come after my reflection. this morning?
I really need, I need some people up here.
Somebody else can join me.
Where are all those seniors that are not quite grown up yet?
It's my favorite story.
It's my favorite story too, so I didn't want to not have a chance to share it again. I brought some things along with me. This is one of my favorite little things that I brought back from Kenya when I was there with Free the Children. And this is made by a group of people that is called the Flip Flop Recycling Company. It's about cleaning beaches and creating masterpieces. And so they melt, like Mombasa, the coastline of Kenya is littered with, I brought these up in case the little ones didn't know what I was talking about, flip-flops. They float across the Indian Ocean from India. They float up the shoreline from all the African countries. So they collect these flip-flops and they're melted down, and then the artisan gets a block or a huge blob, whatever. I wanted to bring back the giraffe that was about this size, but I would have had to buy him an international seat to bring him home. So I couldn't do that. So when they're carving, they never know what's going to come out, what colors. See, he's beautiful. I brought this home for Don because he told me not to come home because I let a giraffe kiss me. I put a piece of food in my mouth. And Clarice came up to the treetop where I was in the little tree house. She came up with her baby and looked right in, and this long black tongue came out, and it went, and then she thought maybe there was one on the other side, so she took the other side up, telling Don, and he said, "I'm never kissing you again." So, yes, you can hold him from one artisan to another. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they make jewelry, they make all kinds of things out of this melted. You can, he can, Gerald, we'll call him Gerald from now on. Gerald can go around and be looked at. So Sharon has scanned all the pages so you can see what my young friends up here are seeing. Come close.
Well,
Oh, Margaret did.
It's been in the family for a long time.
Yes, and this book was donated, by Bev Edwards Sawatzky.
Yeah, it's in the children's library.
Yeah, for all of you to take home and read your bedtime story tonight. Gerald was a tall giraffe whose neck was long and slim, but his knees were awfully crooked. I know about that. And his legs were rather thin. Every year in Africa, they hold a jungle dance where every single animal turns up to skip and prance. And this year, when the day arrived, poor Gerald, he felt so sad because when it came to dancing, he was really very bad. The warthogs started waltzing, and the rhinos rocked and rolled. I guess we don't have that page up there. Is that page up there, Sharon?
Yeah, it's not that.
The lions danced a tango that was elegant and bold.
That's what's supposed
They are.
There.
There they are. There's the, the tango with her rose in her mouth while she did the dip. The chimps, they did the cha-cha with a very Latin Venezuelan feel. And 8 baboons then teamed up for a splendid Scottish reel. It was fun. Gerald swallowed bravely as he walked towards the floor. But the lions saw him coming and they soon began to roar. "Hey, look at clumsy Gerald." The animals all sneered. "Giraffes can't dance, you silly fool. Oh, Gerald, you're so weird." Gerald simply froze up. He was rooted on the spot. "They're right," he thought. "I'm useless. Oh, I feel like such a clot." So he crept off from the dance floor. He started walking home. He never felt so sad before, so sad and so alone. The little clearing, and he looked up to the sky. The moon, the moon, the moon can be so beautiful, he whispered with a sigh. "Excuse me," coughed the cricket, who'd seen Gerald earlier on. "But sometimes when you're different, you just need a different song." So imagine that lovely moon is playing just for you. Everything makes music if you really want it to. With that, the cricket smiled and picked up his violin. Then Gerald felt his body do the most amazing thing. His hooves had started shuffling, making circles on the ground. His neck was gently swaying, and his tail was swirling round. He threw his legs out sidewards, and he swung them everywhere. Then he did a backward somersault and leapt up in the air. Gerald felt so wonderful. His mouth was opened wide. "I'm dancing. Yes, I'm dancing. I'm dancing," Gerald cried. Then one by one, each animal who'd been there at the dance arrived where Gerald boogied on and watched him quite entranced. They shouted, "It's a miracle. We must be in a dream. Gerald's the best dancer we have ever seen." "How did you learn to dance like that? Please, Gerald, tell us how." But Gerald simply twirled around and finished with a bow. Then he raised his head and looked up at the moon and stars above. "We all can dance," he said, "when we find the music that we love." Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you. Bye, Gerald.
Well, thank you, Bev, and the children. I think this is a good time to do a promotion on the bottom shelf of the bookshelf. There is all children's books like this, and you know, I quite enjoyed. I found it hard to pull away from that when I started looking through those books. They were more interesting than the ones up top. So just a hint there. You might have a look at those bottom shelf books. All right. We're going to sing next. "My Love Colors Outside the Lines." I'm always reminded by Ruth Wright when I hear this title. That was her favorite song. She was a minister here many years ago when Bev and I first came to this church, and she loved that song. So I love it too. I love the words. So let's go ahead. The question I asked myself when Jim Taylor, and it's good to see you back, Jim, when Jim Taylor asked me to present the reflection this morning, what would be the most meaningful thing I could share on this Sunday morning? In thinking about this, I remembered the words of Richard Wagamese in his book, Embers. Oh, yes. And I was so relieved to see Penny Gamble come in this morning. Where is Penny? We need the readings, first of all.
Well, a couple of minutes late. I'm sorry. I have a bad habit. I don't know if it's because of the people we bring from other countries that I've developed that habit. But anyways, I wouldn't have missed it. And appreciate Dawn being here. So the readings this morning have to do with the Spirit and the question of what is the Spirit. There will be a reading from 1 Corinthians and 2 readings by Richard Wagamese. And I'll just mention that I love 1 Corinthians, and I was kind of wanting to check on the wording. So this morning I got the Bible out and had another look at the wording, but I decided this was pretty good, so I'm going to read it. These readings focus on the interdependence, connectedness, and love that joins self, the human family, and all of creation. So 1 Corinthians 12, verses 4 to 11. There are different kinds of gifts, but they are all from the same Spirit. There are different ways to serve, but the same Lord to serve. And there are different ways that God works through people, but the same God. God works in all of us in everything we do. Something from the Spirit can be seen in each person for the common good. The Spirit gives one person the ability to speak with wisdom, and the same Spirit gives another the ability to speak with knowledge. The same Spirit gives faith to one person, and to another, that one Spirit gives the gift of healing. The Spirit gives to another person the power of miracles, to another the ability to prophesy. And he gives to another the ability to know the difference between good and evil spirits. The Spirit gives one person the ability to speak in different kinds of languages, and to another the ability to interpret those languages. One Spirit, the same Spirit, does all these things, and the Spirit decides what to give each person. And now, What Comes from Spirit by Richard Wagamese. Spirituality isn't simply spectacular. It's spectacularly simple. It means whatever moves your spirit, not your mind, your spirit. Your mind is not the seat of you. Your soul is. Your spirit. Finding, approaching, and engaging whatever moves your spirit is being spiritual. Music, books, film, art, theater, dance, a bird, skimming a straight line through the air, a sunrise, a breeze, the smell of rain, a quiet conversation, a hug. It's spectacularly simple. If it moves your spirit, it moves you closer to your true essential self, and so closer to Creator. And the second reading, What Comes from Spirit by Richard Wagamese. My search for a spirituality that works in all circumstance has led me to the truth that Creator is a great mystery hiding in the open. When I breathe in, I draw the breath of all things. When I exhale, I contribute to the breath of all things. I am connected. I am joined to the channel of loving, nurturing energy that joins and sustains us all. When I come to know that, understand it, and believe it, my life becomes the process of keeping that channel open. Creator is hiding there. And thanks be to the Spirit. I don't know. Oh, here it is. May these words open us to the Spirit's presence. And may wisdom come to us this day.
Well, thank you, Penny. And I won't start from the beginning here. I'll just continue where I left off. I remembered the words. Richard Wagamese has become one of my favorite authors in this last little while. And in his book, Embers, his advice is, don't just write what you know, write what you wish to know. What you reveal to yourself, you reveal to the reader, in this case, the listener. I thought this is a pretty solid line, and I decided to follow that. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of things I don't know a whole lot about, but I have a lot of questions. The storytelling is about discovery. A unique practice in this church has been the sharing of stories that we call God moments. The stories we share, often experiences of awe and wonder, are, I believe, as meaningful to the teller of the story as to the listener. The sharing time, in this God moment's time, always seems sacred to me. I want to say, first of all, that a number of people have contributed directly to my reflection today. Bev was and is my primary collaborator and confidant. The reading from Corinthians acknowledges the interdependence of all the body parts, members of community, and all of creation. Each has its own unique spirit. Finally, books written by John O'Donohue and Richard Wagamese, these are my two current favorite authors, modern-day mystics, poets, and storytellers were also primary sources. It was Bev that shared a recording of an interview with me that she listened to, in which O'Donohue was interviewed by Mary Hines on a program called Tapestry on CBC Radio. I listened to the interview and found myself in tears. O'Donohue talked about a restlessness in the human heart and a longing that lives deep within us. It is a basic human need to belong. To belong not only at a superficial level, but there's a longing to be fully present, and to be fully alive. It is the experience of being fully alive that I often hear reported in as God moments. On the day that I started writing this, I heard Yvonne display with pride the hockey jersey and the feeling of belonging she experienced with her grandchildren. Elaine talked about the awe and the wonder that she experienced seeing the swans on Wood Lake. Fran Schultz talked about the hope and joy she experienced with a grandchild who is blooming in spite of being in very difficult circumstances. Previously, we heard about the renewals of old friendships, about the excitement of a new romance, or the death of a soulmate. Following the advice of Wagamese, my intent this morning will be to raise questions as opposed to having answers. I just want to say as an aside that I always thought when I was teaching at the university that I had a lot of gems to offer them. What the students used to tell me was the most useful part of my lectures often were the questions I asked. So this has been part of me for all my life, that I've asked a lot of questions, and I will continue to ask questions this morning. So I'm going to raise a lot of questions as opposed to having answers. I'll also organize what I'm going to say as story. I'm not a theologian, but I've always been interested in theology and philosophy, in addition to my specialization in psychology. I've always been interested in the connections between and among those three disciplines. While thinking about the role of God moments in our lives, I wondered what they had in common. What makes what otherwise might be an ordinary moment a God moment? I'll begin by sharing a God moment that I've talked about before. In doing so, I have to say that I'm moving out of my comfort zone a bit and feeling some vulnerability, but I'm going to proceed. And some of you will remember my experience with a hummingbird. About 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive cancer, Merkel cell carcinoma, and had surgery on my buttocks in July 2020, followed by a very lengthy recovery period, which took me well into November. This was followed by 28 days of radiation treatment. Initially, I was unable to sit, so spent the day, or actually day after day, on a colorful mattress spread out on a lounge chair on our deck. Although Bev was there and I had some visitors, John was often there, and I'm grateful for John's almost daily visits some of the time. And Sharon and Sandy offered Reiki, and that was very useful, felt useful to me. So there were lots of people participating with me, but on balance, I had a lot of pretty solitary times. One day in July, a beautiful tiny hummingbird appeared between the pillars on our deck. And when they appear, they hover, as you can, you've all observed this, I'm sure. And initially, I focused on the beauty and the incredible acrobatics of this tiny bird. I assumed the bird was attracted to the bright colors on my mattress. It came back daily and then flew back to the same barren twig at the top of the spot, at the top of the tree across the driveway. Because it predictably always came home to the same spot, I called it Homer. Not very original, but I called him Homer. And there were days when it didn't appear immediately, and I worried that something might have happened to Homer. There was always relief when he appeared, and he'd call out, and I'd say, "He's back," and be quite excited about all of that. Eventually, when I was able to sit, I began to spend time at my office desk, which was at the opposite side of the house, and twice Homer appeared at my window. And again, I saw Homer at the window. Homer then left for the winter and reappeared in spring to the same twig. One day, I believe this experience with Homer will always be strongly embedded in my memories. There's an underlying mystery to this whole experience for me, and there are endless questions. My focus after the first few weeks shifted from observing this little bird to actually experiencing it. I had lots of time, so I asked questions. I observed the little bird, and I sometimes I wondered what he's thinking about me. You know, that it seemed like there was an interaction happening between the bird and myself. And that felt like moving to another level, feeling like I had a connection to this little bird. And I wondered, as I said, I wondered how that bird was experiencing me. If I'm connected to this little bird, what's my connection to nature more generally? What's my connection to the divine? What happens to my spirit when I die? This is only a few of the questions I was asking myself. During this time, my fears, and I thought this was tangible. During the time that all this was happening, my fears related to my medical issues and my fears of death gradually began to dissipate. The visits from Homer were no longer ordinary, but somehow became part of a larger reality. a reality that was based in spirit. I moved from merely observing to experiencing. I believe now that this transition began through being alone in solitude. I spent much time visualizing, being mindful of my reactions, of meditating, and in prayer. I believe I moved to a larger reality in which I belonged in the context of spirit. I daily experienced the God presence during this time. O'Donohue references Meister Eckhart, whom I've talked about before here, when he talks about the amazing region within you that is divine. This is a region where nothing that has ever happened to you, there is something beautiful and eternal happening. May you learn to see yourself with the same delight, pride, and expectation with which God sees you in every moment. These are the words of a wise man, John O'Donohue. What is most meaningful to me is the following. May you realize that the shape of your soul is unique, that you have a special destiny here, that behind the facade of your life, there is something beautiful and eternal happening. There are moments when we sense our interconnection with all things as more than just an interesting encounter. They're invitations to relationship. As O'Donohue suggests, we are privileged to still have the time to do this. The shape of each of our souls is different. Much unhappiness at the end of life, I think, derives from the fact that we are living the life expected of us rather than the life of unique possibilities. We've fallen out of rhythm with the secret signature and light of our own nature. Gerald the giraffe found his own rhythm. Jesus struggled in the desert, but found and accepted his role and destiny after 40 days of solitude. To summarize, the words connection, belonging, hope, and love are 4 words I associate with God moments. Connectedness to a grandchild, to an old friend, to nature, to God, to our memories. Important relationships do not end with death. What's the role of religion? The word religion, as Richard Rohr has pointed out, breaks down as re, which is again, and ligios, meaning connection. Religion is meant to offer us support to connect again that which is separated. We need reminders sometimes to connect with the whole or the holy. As an aside to this thought, it seems apparent that when religion loses its purpose and colludes with the forces of separation, it becomes irrelevant and I think irreverent. The word belong, O'Donohue suggests, is 2 words. Be who I am at this moment and longing to be all that I can. We long to feel a part of, whether it's family, church community, or universe. Many developmental psychologists suggest that the need for a child to belong in the family is the most important determiner of future behaviors. When I walk into this church and am greeted with warmth, I feel I belong, and it's often a God moment for me. Most basically, we long for love. No matter how competent or self-assured we are, the one thing we deeply long for is to love and be loved. To be loved by partners, friends, children, grandchildren, even our dogs and cats. We all long to be seen and loved. We can never be completely visible to ourselves. Good friends are mirrors through which we can see ourselves with more clarity. In conclusion, I'm going to read you a poem by Richard Wagamese that deeply resonates with me and uniquely summarizes the overall intent of what I've been talking about and we've been singing about this morning. The piece I will read is taken from Wagamese's book of Ojibwe Meditations, and it's called Embers. I want to listen deeply enough that I hear everything and nothing at the same time. And I'm made more by the enduring quality of my silence. I want to question deeply enough that I am made more not by the answers, so much as my desire to continue asking questions. I want to speak deeply enough that I am made more by the articulation of my truth, shifting into the day's shape. In this way, listening, pondering, and sharing become my connection to the oneness of life, and there is no longer any part of me in exile. Amen. to suggest you remain seated while we sing Spirit of Life, after which Penny will come forward with stories from mission and service.
The minute for mission this morning is accompanying grandmothers. Grandmothers whose children have died of AIDS are often left to care for their grandchildren. In the Rift Valley of Kenya, 7% of the people who live there are HIV positive, nearly 900,000, and many will not survive. Grandmothers whose children have died of AIDS are often left alone to care for their grandchildren. And to add insult to injury, their church community condemns them, leaving them without support as they raise their grandchildren. Some pastors in the Rift Valley, as in many other places, believe and teach that faithful Christians cannot contract the disease and that it is a judgment from God, a disease for sexual sinners. The pastors had little information about HIV and AIDS. To them and in other communities, and others in the community, it was a strange disease. They believed HIV was the result of sexual sin and was a judgment from God for the sexually immoral, writes Esther Mambo of the World Council of Churches. In partnership with the United Church, Mambo and Pauline Wanjuru of St. Paul's University in Limuru, Kenya, led a series of workshops in one Rift Valley community that had been hit especially hard by HIV/AIDS. They invited grandmothers and pastors to connect and learn from each other. One grandmother who attended the workshops was 70 years old. She had lost both her daughter and son and was left to raise 3 grandchildren on her own. Instead of stepping up to help, her neighbors refused to visit her because they said her daughter and son had been sexually immoral. Her pastor wouldn't even attend her children's funerals because he didn't want to be seen associating with her family. When she went to church, the pastor preached about the punishment for sexual immorality. At the workshops, this woman bravely told her story to the pastors who attended. She also shared with them how it felt to be shamed for loving her children and grandchildren. Another grandchildren explained that her grandchildren were born with the virus and couldn't have been involved in any sexual immorality. Yet another spoke of God's love for everyone. Pastors listened and learned and ended by making a commitment to extend compassion and offer pastoral care to the grandmothers. All of us know from our own life experience that when we know better, we do better. Your mission and service gifts gave these grandmothers the opportunity to help their pastors learn to do better by connecting their love for their grandchildren to God's love for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. I sort of broke the sequence here, but we're going to give you an opportunity to share your God moments at this time. And it was going to be right after my God moment, but we'll do it this way and it'll work. So take some time to reflect, and if you'd like to share a God moment, either come to the front here and share it with the microphone here, or Sharon will move around with another microphone.
My God moment, excuse me, this week was when I heard the wonderful news that the little, I want to say step-great-nephew, whose name is Seth, that I have brought up several times at church, had a PET scan and several other scans and appears to be clear of the cancer that he had. Thank you all for your prayers, and let's keep them up.
My God moment has just finished. This wonderful service that Bev and Don have put together is just incredible. Thank you so much.
Dawn, you said that I love colors outside the lines was one of your favorite hymns, and I've always loved it as well. But today I realized that I'm living that song. And thank you for your words this morning.
I'd just like to share with you, I guess it's a God moment, because the folk choir, when we met last week, we decided that we would like a name that would encompass the joy that we have when we're singing together and sharing music. And we came up with the name Spirit Vibes. And after the beautiful words this morning and songs and everything about the Spirit moving in us, music, singing, playing instruments is just such a spiritual thing. So we will be announcing this very shortly. We are becoming the Spirit Vibes. That is the old choir name. Thanks.
I just like to share, when you talked about questions, Don, I read Jim Taylor's article this morning before church, and he was saying about things that in the world that just seem so hard, and what do we do about them? And his question really was a deep one that I am still answering for myself. But it was, what do we do when we feel there's nothing to do, or what can we do when there's nothing to do that we can do? And it is a question that you've answered for me in a lot of ways this morning. And I just want to thank you. And I thank Jim for the question. It was a God moment.
I'll go. I could have shared this God moment last week, but I just feel a little more that it fits with what we're talking about today. Just colors outside the lines and the Spirit moving in us. Many of you maybe don't know, but Greg was a biker, and his brothers were bikers, and his sons are bikers, and our nephews are bikers, so we have a lot of bikers in our family, and they have a sort of label on them. A lot of us avoid them or have names that we would call bikers when we see them whizzing by us on the highway. But 2 weeks ago, I had mentioned that Greg and I were going to visit his brother in Sherwood Park, and that Morris is 83, and he just gave up riding his bike 2 years ago, and he really is failing. But his son was our God moment when we were visiting. His son is the loudest person in a room all the time. He is a Harley biker. He's tattooed from head to toe. He is loud music headbanger, loves that heavy rock music. But he has a heart and that is so compassionate. And as Greg and I observed him caring for his dad 2 weeks ago, it was just a God moment and humble to see the spirit in him, taking his dad to the washroom and showering him and putting his socks on and talking to him. And Greg's brother is basically deaf, and yet his son knows how to communicate with him. And he just was such an inspiration to us. And I'm so glad that Morris has him in his life. So I just thought it might be a special way of just saying, when you see a biker going by this summer, you might have a special heart for them rather than a harsh word for them. And that was our God moment.
Are there any other God moments? I'm going to ask the greeters to bring forward the offering box. And I just want to say that in this congregation, we don't pass the plate around, but we have an offering box if you wish to donate. And you can also donate by par on a regular basis. And also, in addition to the financial contributions, of course, the contributions of time and energy are amazing in this congregation. So shall we sing the offertory song, Christ has no body now but ours, and we'll stay seated. Time for the prayers of the people, and we want to listen to the words and concerns of our community, to really listen and be fully present to each other at this time. So I invite you to again let us know if you want to have a mic brought around to you or come to the front.
Gary was at Community Coffee on Tuesday morning, and he's doing much better. He can, he's been out for lunches and such. He's at home. He's carrying an oxygen tank, and he says he can walk about 150 feet and then has to sit down. He's, as I said, going out and getting lunches, and the Wooden Nickel and other places are making meals for him to take home with him. So he says he's not done yet. Yeah.
I would like to ask for a prayer for the family of Brian Mulroney. He was our Prime Minister for quite some years, and just watching Jean Chrétien say some wonderful things about him really moved me, and I thought we can be really proud to have Canadians like that actually recognize the good in each other and accept each other's differences.
Thank you. I ask you to join my heart prayers for my dear friend in Merritt, who was part of a major scam 2 days ago, and she's horrified in her own role in this because my friend has had a lot of trauma in her life and knows that she goes into a place of just not functioning and not thinking. So she found herself on the phone with these terrible people. I mean, I try not to see them that way, but terrorists. And they just terrified her. She was running to the bank. They said they were going to call the Attorney General. She is a very smart and very capable woman, but she obeyed everything they said. And in the end, they asked her to withdraw money, $8,000, and put it into a Bitcoin machine. She is horrified at herself. And I am so sad that this is happening to very beautiful and innocent people. So please hold her and the people who are doing this in our prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others?
Well, I'm going to ask for just for you to send healing energy my way. I've had, in the last couple of weeks, 2 surgeries on my eye, and it is still leaking. I have glaucoma and have lost some sight in my left eye, and had a procedure 10 years ago that worked well to lower the pressures, but it seems to have sprung a leak now. And I have next to no pressure in my left eye, which is not good news. So saw the doctor again yesterday, and we're going to wait another week, put in a Band-Aid contact lens in, so hopefully it will heal, and I won't need any more stitches put in my eyeball. So please send just healing energy my way. Thanks.
In addition, we hold in our hearts those people known to us on our prayer list: Kim C., Sandy B., David and Joan, siblings of Sharon H., Gary M., Gordon R., Bill P., Tanya P., Louisa, Gary A., Peter P., Corey, Danielle and Rocky, Fran and Elwyn. We gather these things, these loved ones and situations into one, and in the silence of this space, pray the words that have the most meaning for us, or quietly reflect in all that has been. And we'll scroll the Aramaic prayer on the screens. So I'm going to suggest that we remain seated and say whatever prayer means the most to you. Okay? We're going to conclude this service this morning with another of our favorite songs, Draw the Circle Wide. And I'm going to suggest that we form a circle here. And I know that some of you have difficulty standing, and the circle will just weave its way by you and include you in the circle. So let's do it that way. So form your circle, and we'll go with Draw the Circle Wide. Say the concluding words, the sending forth words. As we go, we will count our blessings, embody our faith, live an authentic life, never look down on the struggle for life. Notice behind every face there is a soul at work, and know that wherever we go,